Welcome to That Reminds Me Of. I'm the Doc and I'm here with the Baron, and today we're talking about Minari, directed by Lee Isaac Chung.
And this is the show where we watch films and we talk about films and the films we're reminded of while watching those films. There are spoilers. Stay with us.
This is called Minari. Minari, am I pronouncing it right?
I think that's right. Minari.
We've completely destroyed any other Korean pronunciation in our
Look,
podcast. So
in every other episode, and this episode's going to be no different. This is just what we do.
okay, so that's a spoiler in a different sense.
That's right.
So Minari, did you go into this film with any knowledge whatsoever? Because I didn't. I've had a busy week, and I just knew I was going to the movies tonight, and I rocked up and watched it, which is probably a good way to see a film.
Yes, and look, I've come out with probably no more knowledge of the background of this film than when I went in.
Yeah.
I just know what the film is itself. So,
Yeah.
we won't be able to comment on much other than I'd heard there was a fair bit of Oscar buzz for this film in the Best Foreign Film category, which is unusual because this film is filmed in the US. It's set in the US, but it follows a Korean family.
Yeah.
In fact, before we go any further, maybe we should give the little synopsis of this film.
Yes.
The
Is that
one
your-
the
is it
one or
your
two
turn?
liner. I think it's my turn.
I think it is.
I was starting, so I might as well
Good.
crack on. So you're following a family, a Korean family, the Yi family, who have come from California. They work as chicken sexers. Is that right?
Is it sex identifiers?
Yes.
Like working out what sex the chickens are?
Yeah,
That's
they
what
get
I
the little
thought.
baby chicks. They dip them in something. I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Water or some powder. They look at underneath and there's the fine art of knowing if it's a boy or a girl.
And some people are faster than others.
Yes, apparently it is an art and it
Yeah.
takes a certain level of skill. Anyway, Mr. Yi is good at it. He's made some money being good at sexing chickens.
Yeah.
And they've basically packed up everything and come to Oklahoma, was it? No, where was
Arkansas.
it? Arkansas, thank you. Arkansas, middle America. They've bought a block of land in a little community, and his dream is to start a farm. And Mrs. Yi, Monica, is not into it at all. She hates the idea. And it doesn't take long for Mr. Yi to kind of agree to this concept of bringing grandma along, which sort of pleases Monica, his wife, for a little while, but things just start to unravel because farming is hard and they struggle. And there's things like water and money from the bank and all this sort of stuff to figure out that all seems to go wrong. And it all takes place in this tiny little town with a cast of really strange American characters around this family that they're trying to navigate.
Isn't it clear that there's a whole lot of Korean baggage brought in here, like between the city and the country?
Yes.
Because clearly, Walking Dead, Steven Yeun,
Yes.
who is the main character and also stars in The Walking Dead, is where I know him from.
Yes.
He just seems to love the idea of a plot of land and working the land, and his wife doesn't. She's clearly a city girl.
Yep.
And that tension sort of goes all through the film.
You're right, and a whole bunch of prejudice about being
Yes.
yokels and living off the land, and when they could be in the city and going to a bigger church, and there's all the baggage that goes with it, a better school, all that stuff, which probably does come from Korea. It probably it's lifted straight out of their upraising, and they
Yes.
brought it with them into the US.
Oh, it's clear, and you can identify with that type of thing in Australia or America or whatever, but they bring a Korean flavour to it. Like it's not our version of that; it's theirs.
I would say that's the most striking thing about this film, and maybe the thing that is leading to its success is that you're brought right into the middle of this Korean family, and all of their drama is just so relatable and so human on a universal level that I could see it being a white family I could see it being a, European or American or Australian family. I could see it being an African family. Like, it could just be anybody. These are universal themes that they're dealing with, even though the food might be different or some of the little cultural nuances might be different. What we're seeing is such a clearly human theme that it speaks to anyone.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I agree completely. But the version of that I had going in my head is that I actually felt Korean. I thought, and that was a positive for the filmmakers, because I felt like I was so on their journey that I felt I was feeling the Korean in America experience.
Oh, great. Well, that's cool. I like that.
And I'm not Korean.
And you're not?
No.
At last check, you were.
No. I've watched Parasite.
Yes.
And I've watched the American, version of Old Boy.
Yeah. That doesn't count.
But I'm not Korean.
That definitely doesn't count. So, okay, take a step back.
Okay.
General thoughts about this film. What do you think broadly?
Look, I think it's nice to have a slow-paced, slow burn type family drama that you wouldn't necessarily pick on Netflix. If you were scrolling and you're looking for the horrors and the things that are going to give you a buzz,
Right.
And you're not going to choose them. But when you're forced to sit down for something like this, I actually find I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, look, you said slow burn, a slow drama. That is exactly what this is. It's very, very slow. But it is a pretty little film at the same time. And if you do have the patience to sit with it, there's a lot to be taken away from it. And I think by the end, it's quite rewarding, that journey. Even though not a lot really happens. Like, honestly, aside from some family dramas, you could pick the plot points on like one hand,
Well, no, I picked the plot points, and not just on one hand, on two fingers.
Yeah.
Because the two plot points, and you picked them virtually at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 3. They have a crack at a farm. There was always going to be a disaster when they lost the farm.
Yep.
And they were always going to come back to the fact that the grandma who planted the Minari, if that's how you pronounce it, somehow that was going to be the saviour at the end.
Yeah.
Now, we don't quite see that save the day, and maybe it doesn't, but the film ends on them going back to the Minari plants and picking them, and you assume that's sort of the saviour.
Yes. And you know what? I was waiting for that moment to happen where this Minari plant was going to be the crop that, they'd make lots of money out of. They didn't do that, I'm glad, but they do have that. They still have that sort of kind of predictable scene of them coming to it at the end. However, because it's not done in a forceful way of like, oh, this is the crop that'll save us after the disaster, everybody. We're saved. Thanks, Grandma. It's actually good. It's nice. It's actually nice the way it's handled.
Yeah, that's right. It would probably feature in Minari too.
Yeah. Minari's like I don't know. It looks like it's a cilantro / coriander parsley thing.
Yeah.
But it just grows.
It's one of the things that appears in my salads. Yeah. But I've never put it in there.
Never questioned it. Yeah. It just appears. It's there one day. You just eat it.
Correct.
Yeah, and it grows without any help whatsoever. You just throw the seeds around and there it is.
Yeah, no, very handy.
Yeah.
He should have just planted Minari from the outset, clearly.
Absolutely. I think we both kind of like it. I'm not smitten with it. I don't feel like this is the Oscar buzzworthy film that I thought I was going in for. However, aside from the simple story, there are some pretty great performances in here. And do you have any thoughts about performances? Who you liked? What you thought, thought about the acting in general?
Well, I thought the heart of the film was obvious, and that is in the youngest boy, the young son, David.
Yeah. Yes.
And Grandma.
Yeah.
Like, that is just clearly the heart of the film.
Yeah.
Like, I went in there anxious to see Steven Yeun from Walking Dead, just because I know him, and the fact that he's playing a Korean rather than an American in the zombie apocalypse.
I was impressed with that part of it, that he could sort of play that Korean character so convincingly. And it could be because I'm just, a white dude watching him do it, but I thought he was great. on
Well,
that
we,
level.
we don't know is the
That's true.
is the reality.
Yes.
And you say that he lost you on when he's talking American.
Right.
I was thinking that as well, but who knows? I don't know what an American Korean sounds like when they're
Yeah.
speaking English, but no, I just don't know.
Well, I think his wife, Monica, the actress that played Monica,
Yeah.
one of my favorite performances was from her. I just thought she was really nuanced.
Yeah,
At first, I thought she was a little hard to watch, but that was her character. And then as the movie progresses, I just couldn't take my eyes off her. I just thought she was brilliant, and she sounded like what I imagine someone who's come from Korea and is learning English would sound like. Whereas I was a little less convinced with him.
yeah. But I thought her performance was killer.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was less convinced by her character.
Mm.
And I just maybe this is just the bloke in me, but I felt hard done by. I'm thinking,
Give him a go.
Walking Dead is really trying here.
Give him a go.
Give him a crack. Look how hard he's trying, and it's not a choice between his family and the farm. He's trying to build the farm for his family, and I felt angry at her.
She pegged him to fail from the start.
I know.
She went, the farm. Here we go. I better learn how to do the chicken sexing really well
And she got good.
She did.
Yeah.
But that was pegging him to fail from the start.
It was.
I was annoyed by that as well. I got both sides of the argument, but I think I was more annoyed by her not giving it a go than by him saying, I'm going to follow this dream.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. Her performance was really spellbinding and easy to watch and fun to watch. As was his. I thought he was understated, and you could tell all the emotion that was underneath.
Yes.
And perhaps in a Korean way, they sort of keep it.
Right. There's
under
all the family
surface.
honor and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, maybe I'm projecting on what a Korean culture is like. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But then you've got David, the young boy, and he's clearly I think he was born in America, wasn't he? Or at least spent
the
most
kids
of
seem
his
like
time
they have been,
in America, and
Yeah.
that clash of cultures with him growing up as an American with all this Korean baggage, and the grandma that doesn't live up to what an American grandma should be, baking sort of cakes and stuff.
Who,
That's
by the
cool.
way, one of the most awesome grandmas you could imagine, I think.
She was?
Yeah, she was incredible.
Awesome.
She was incredible. How much fun.
Yeah, and
How much fun.
and how complex in the end. Like when she comes over as not a stereotype, but as cartoonish to
Yes.
begin with, and then she ends up obviously having a tragic storyline, and which includes stuffing them up completely by burning down their dreams.
Yeah.
And yet you still love it.
Yep. I know. What a bunch of crazy turns for her. But she's I think the saddest part with her character was that she was so optimistic and so unflappable. Like, none of it got in the way. And then the stroke was just so crippling.
Was.
And you saw her spirit get kind of tamped down a little bit by that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because she can't do anything properly, because she's sort of half paralyzed, there's the big fire accident that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my spirit probably got dampened, not then, but when Walking Dead has his big win, when just after he's lost all prospects with his farm, he then has the win of brokering a deal with some Korean grocer.
Yeah. It's going to come good.
It's going to come good. Everything's looking good.
Yeah.
And then his wife bails him up outside and basically says, no, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought that was disheartening. And I guess it was meant to be, so it succeeded.
Yeah. I don't think we ever really got the other side of that argument out, that was sort of the climax of it. And I suppose what she's saying is that they've been fighting all along, and that this wasn't going to work, because they get together in the good times and they fall apart in the bad times, and so long run, this isn't going to work, right? This relationship. But then she kind of makes that call that they should just call it, and he agrees. They go back to the farm. The place is in flames because Grandma's accidentally burnt down all of his stock, all of his food that he's grown, and so that somehow fixes everything. Suddenly they're back on again. They've got a new loan. They're putting a well in. Like, there was the other side of the argument never happened. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we didn't need to see that.
No, you're right. Maybe that was the necessary tension.
Yeah.
That had to be resolved by something traumatic and big happening, because you probably do get more out of that whole scene where it's in flame, everything's in flames, and they recover from that. You get more out of it by knowing that things were, you know, in a bit of strife just before.
Yeah, it's true.
So maybe as a plot device, perhaps it works.
Yep. Yeah, totally. You know, the thing about this film, right, is that normally we come out of a film and there's a lot to say. There isn't a lot to say about this film. Like, not in a bad way.
No.
Not really in a good way either. Like, I think we're just sort of like, yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
That was kind of nice. You know, there's nothing really divisive that we're going to argue about. There's nothing to hate. There's some things to love, but there's not a lot to love. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I kind of enjoyed it.
Like, it's. I'm trying to think of another film like that, and I'm struggling at the moment. But
there's probably many, but I think we don't end up watching them in the first place.
Right.
Because you're always looking. Well, I'm always looking for the thrill.
Yeah.
The sort of the sex, the drugs, and the violence.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the, homegrown Korean vegetables.
Correct. Homegrown Korean vegetables with a little bit of family drama sprinkled on top. So, okay, one person we haven't talked about yet is the guy who plays Crazy Paul.
Where have I seen him?
He's been in so many things. He's a great actor. Actually, do you have his phone? We should look at his name up.
Crazy Paul.
Crazy Paul. Crazy Paul. He's a great actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. You know this guy. He's a character actor. He often plays a slightly fanatical, intense human being. I think I've seen him in lots of TV shows. He was in Falling Skies. Falling Skies.
Ah, yes. Is it Will Patton?
It could be.
Why does Wikipedia not give me a picture of him?
Get out of town.
Come off it. Jeez. It's Will Patton.
It is, okay.
And he has been in TV shows, Falling Skies, as you said.
Yes.
Swamp Thing, Shots Fired, The Agency, Into the West. Movies, Remember the Titans, Armageddon, Halloween. No Way Out, The Postman, Gone in 60 Seconds, The Fourth Kind, etc.
He's been in loads of stuff. You know this guy, he's great. He's a good, intense, good old boy style character. And in this, he's Crazy Paul. He's sort of the guy that ends up dropping off a tractor for Mr. Yi and saying, I can drive tractors and I'm a God-fearing Christian. And then ends up working for him, but he's just kind of tapped, but that's in a great way.
He's loco, but he's what's the word? Benign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, and actually turns out to be quite lovely. Like, he really, really wants everything that this family does to succeed.
It's funny because he sort of represents the American openness or something to experience that counters that sort of closed, stoic kind of vibe that you get out of the Korean family. So you've got Walking Dead, who is just not willing to veer from his path, and then this guy, even though he's introducing crazy ideas, the film is almost presenting them as positive. Like, The Exorcism is almost open your mind, mate. Try an exorcism. Why wouldn't you try an exorcism?
Don't you know what happened on this property?
Yeah. And it was presented as a social good.
Totally. I just loved that. I loved that combination of the Korean family and this kind of cracked, crazy, Christian who was kind of the town laughing stock. Like every Sunday he walks this circuit with
the Station of the Cross.
Yes, a giant wooden cross on his shoulders. What a great little combination of characters.
Did they make enough of it?
I think they could have made more of it, for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, this whole film is a study in understatement, I think. And that can be good, but I think in this case, it's a little too understated. Like, I would have liked a little more of some of these characters and of the situation. There was so much potential there to do so much.
Yeah. What did you think of the young boy and his sister, who I thought was
both
good, but underplayed maybe?
Yeah, I thought they were both really solid. You know, when you get kids that young, it's tricky to get good performances out of them, and I think they're both great. Again, I think that they didn't have a lot to play with, and you could have gotten more out of those two actors. So I don't know. Good all round. I didn't love it. I keep coming back to that.
Okay.
And the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, I'm not going to remember this film so well as I thought I would. You know.
I think we felt exactly the same, but I'd frame that as I liked it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I didn't love it either. I think you liked it as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't love it. So I think we're at the same place.
Absolutely.
We should mention
that
we've come back to the scene of the crime where we've been a couple of times before.
We're back again.
We've been evacuated. We've had all these fun times.
I know.
We're back on the
booze. This started off as a double feature.
So we're halfway through. We'll continue this after the episode.
We're suckers for punishment. We choose this place. We just every time. I mean, we love the films here, but this is a hard place to record in.
Well,
you know,
don't say that, because I think what we're really doing is looking for sponsorship.
This from
Palace.
It's a great place to record in.
It's a great place. Well, look, it's definitely a great place to watch a film.
It's a great place to watch a film.
And get an ice cream and a Prosecco.
Totally. That's a good deal. If you're a member of this place, every now and again, they go, come and see a film early. We'll give you an ice cream and a Prosecco for the same price that you'd pay like at any other cinema.
Yeah.
That's a deal. That is a deal. And also, we were in Cinema 12 today. Cinema 12 is where it's at.
Great cinema.
That's a great big screen.
Loved it. I felt like I was at MIF.
Yes.
Which is good. Melbourne Film Festival. Yes.
Love it.
Okay, I'm going to just stop it there and get straight onto that reminds me of. And did this film remind you of anything?
It reminded me of a lot of indie / festival films. It really reminded me of festival films. And the first one that I thought of was First Cow, which is one of the first films that we saw of the MIF experience. Pace-wise, the character sort of development and exactly that sort of very much internal story going on with these people. The relationship to the land, all that sort of stuff. And I think I actually maybe enjoyed First Cow more, but this is good. You know, they're on a level. They're sort of similar sorts of films.
That's a really good pick, because I think the pace is spot on. Because First Cow I struggled with early. It was going so slow, but I thought the payoff was so wonderful. It really built to something that made you feel something. This one took me less to get into. I think I was with it earlier. But it never took me to the heights of First Cow.
Yes, I agree. It doesn't really sort of build in the same way. Yeah,
not as much build, but it was just good throughout.
Definitely. Any for you?
I think I've got a few. I'll have to remember them, because this is fresh. We're just straight out of cinema, so don't judge. But I remember the very start of the film, when they were driving to a location. I thought of two films. One was The Shining. We mention The Shining every week, so
might as well.
Might as well. But just films that start with a journey to a spot.
Okay. Yes.
And The Shining is a famous one where you see the overhead shot of them driving.
I love it.
The other one, which was perhaps more so, was Funny Games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And I would have thought I'd say Funny Games for several films other than this one.
It is. It absolutely is.
But again, the start of it, I remember in Funny Games, I could be wrong, but I think they're in a car.
Yeah.
heading towards a destination.
Okay. If this film had started off with a Korean family traveling to the country to start a farm and to, do this dream that they've saved up with, and then it turned into a horror film, then I'd be all for it.
There you go. That's the difference.
I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
that's funny.
It needed to go all from dusk till dawn on us, didn't it?
Yes. That would actually
Genre
be
switch
great.
halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's
halfway through, we realize the crops aren't working for a certain reason, and then the hillbillies come out of the hills and take them all down.
And M. Night Shyamalan takes the direction.
Yes.
Well, I've got another quick one, if you want. It's not a filmic one. It's more a world of literature one, which I like to delve into occasionally. And that's a couple of novels by John Steinbeck.
Yeah.
One is Of Mice and Men.
Great call. I love that. As soon as you said Steinbeck, I was like,
really?
Of Mice and Men? Because that's a
really?
great call. Yeah.
Good. Well, and you could go the film versions as well, but the thing that struck me was Of Mice and Men, there's these two blokes. I think we might have mentioned this film before, this book before, but the dream is to own a plot of land.
Yeah.
And to, there's really no realistic hope that these guys will own it. But they dream of it, and I found myself watching Walking Dead guy.
Yes.
And
Crazy Paul.
And Crazy Paul.
And
yes.
That's what made me think of Mice and Men as soon as you said Steinbeck, because those two.
I didn't think of Crazy Paul.
Yeah.
So Walking Dead is Gary Sinise, and Crazy Paul is John Malkovich. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I haven't gone that far.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'd only thought of
That's a great call.
The American dream, I suppose.
Yeah.
Of owning your own stuff, and I thought it was so interesting to have that same dream, that same longing, but with a Korean family.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's the reference of the night for sure.
Well, I'll extend it just a little.
Please
to
do.
The other Steinbeck novel that I love is Grapes of Wrath.
Grapes of Wrath. Yeah.
Yeah. Wrath.
I say
Wrath.
Wrath. You say Roth.
Oh, I say both, and I just interchange.
Interchangeable.
One will be right, and
Yeah.
that's my Gal Gadot moment for this episode.
Yeah.
But Grapes of whatever, a family going across America, aiming for California, where they can finally get a job and earn enough money to feed the family, and it just had a little bit of that vibe to the immigrant experience, perhaps. Just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this actually, we haven't talked about this. This film is set Reagan era.
Yes.
So what years are we talking about there?
The 80s.
Is it 80s?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say late 70s. So it's 80s.
Could be late 70s, but it's definitely Reagan is associated with the 80s.
There you go. So it gives you a sense. I mean, it definitely has a feeling of a period piece, although it could be any time. It could be today, and it would still be relevant.
I didn't feel a periodness about it at all, and I think that's probably a credit to the filmmakers.
It was just the old TV and the VHS and the old car and things like that, but nothing else really. You're right.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before. That part of America is sort of stuck in a time warp. Like, it could just be whenever. What was the film we watched with the Robert Pattinson and
Devil All the Time?
Devil All the Time.
We made the same point, didn't we?
Yeah.
That it could have been any time.
Could have been any time. Could have been anywhere. Oh, not anywhere. It's very specific where it is, but it's timeless. That part of the world.
Which made it odd, actually. You mentioned the Reagan thing. That seemed to be just inserted there as a little clue. It was the one and only clue to time and place. Yeah. And
which you could have otherwise missed. You just wouldn't know when it was, and that would be okay too.
And maybe it's helpful in placing it without being too overt.
Yeah, totally. Look, I don't have anything else. I don't have any good zinger remind me of. It's like I just feel like yours are better.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Do you have another one?
I think I did this last episode.
Oh, please
I think I kept on going.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to say a really bloody obvious one.
Yeah.
That is obvious for a sort of Western audience, and that's Parasite.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One is just clearly that you're following a Korean family,
Yeah.
and it's so the family unit commentary
Yeah.
is so central to it. Like, it's all about how that family works
Oh, that's
together.
good. Yeah, that's good.
So that's one
I didn't
thing.
see it when you first said Parasite. I was like, okay. But
Is he being racist?
Yeah, is he just being racist? Is he just naming another Korean film?
I felt that. Well, that's why I thought it was
No, but
obvious,
but
and that's why I felt
The
self-conscious.
family unit's good. I like that.
and I
yeah.
left it till last just in case you gave me nothing. So,
Good.
there was that. There were also two very specific, really little details
Yeah.
that reminded me of Parasite, and one was the fact that they talk. There was a natural disaster. There was this tornado
Yeah.
inserted. It was in the first third of the film.
For no reason.
Inserted for no reason,
Yeah.
and it heightened the stakes
Yeah.
for a moment.
Yes.
But had no bearing on the actual film. That's exactly what happened in Parasite. Remember?
With the flooding
With the
scene.
flood.
Yeah, the flood. Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing related to that
Although
was...
the flood felt like a bigger act of God, whereas this was
yeah.
it almost happened,
Yeah, that's right.
but it didn't. So chill out, everybody. It's fine.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, that's because this film wasn't as brave as
No.
Parasite in many respects.
Yes.
But related to that was another little comment about the water, flowing down or something.
Yeah.
He said the water always flows down.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of Parasite as well, to the flood scene.
Yeah.
Where the water flows down, and was a comment on the social hierarchies that the powerful were up there and the lesser were down there. And it wasn't referenced as such, but there was just a mention of water flow.
Yes.
And I thought maybe that's a Korean thing, that they're very aware of where water of elevations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've made me. I think what this talk about Parasite has made me realize why I'm a little lukewarm on this film.
Ah, wow.
It's because you know this. I've mentioned it so many times. I love Korean cinema.
You're half Korean.
I'm half Korean, and
At least you carry on about Korean cinema so
all
much.
the time. I know. I watch as much as I can. But the thing is, right, is the reason I love it is because it is courageous storytelling, and this is a very, very safe, sort of subtle,
Yes.
slow burn. I don't know. It's not even a European sensibility. It's something else. I don't know what it is. There's something very sort of festival and indie about this, and it kind of annoys me because I came for a Korean film, and it was just not that. It wasn't that bold storytelling that I'm used to.
It's perfectly encapsulated, and I get completely your reaction.
Yeah.
It's like it's a festival film, and one that is, if you've got 10 films that you want to see, it's sort of 14th or 15th on the list, and you don't actually see it.
Yeah.
You don't not want to see it. You actually had it on your short list.
Yeah.
You thought this will be okay,
Yeah.
but you don't end up seeing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's what it is.
You see Parasite instead.
So I wonder how it's sort of it's being received broadly. I'm curious about that, and where this buzz for the Oscars and the Golden Globes have sort of come from. Other than, I think, maybe because it's very cleverly a Korean-led film that's been made with an almost entirely American crew in the US with a character from The Walking Dead. Maybe there's just a whole bunch of Americans that have just never watched any Korean cinema other than Parasite, and now they're watching this and going, "Oh, wow, this is something I haven't seen before." I wonder.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is, and Brad Sue Pitt, I think has cottoned onto that. So he's
Yeah.
the executive producer. When I saw his name at the end, I thought, whoa.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said for that. Korea has made an impact,
Yes.
and now they're jumping on. They're not brave enough to make another fully immersive Korean experience.
Yeah.
So they have to do something that's sort of half Korean, half
Yeah.
American, with the kids with American accents and fine, good, enjoyable, but not quite the same.
No, and lost some of the flavor of what makes Korean cinema great
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah. I think the flavour is in those bags that Grandma brought from Korea.
Yeah, that's right. With the antelope powder in it, or whatever it was, the antler powder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it just diluted a little on the journey.
There you go. Well, I don't think we've sold it as like, people are going to rush out and, to see this thing. But hopefully we've got across the point that it is still, once you're there for the ride, it's still quite an enjoyable film.
Yeah, I wouldn't turn away. I'd still recommend people watch it.
Yeah.
And if you get an opportunity to watch it with an ice cream and a Prosecco like we did,
Yes.
I think that probably
sells
sells
the
it, and I'd do it again.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Until
All right.
next time, Baron.
Doc, another episode down. See you next time.
See ya.